In this story, a woman risked her life to protect the orphans she loved. The year was 1884, and the place was the middle of the American Prairie. For as long as Catherine Barkley could remember, she'd been alone in the world, abandoned by her parents at a young age. She grew up in an orphanage run by the Catholic Church in the small town of Deadwood, South Dakota. Catherine had red hair, the color of fire, a determined look in her green eyes, and a heart filled with kindness. She grew older. She took care of the younger children, consoling them when they were scared and teaching them how to read. She dreamed of one day leaving the orphanage and starting a farm with all the children. But it was just a dream because no one ever came to adopt the children of the Barkley home, and there were many. The years passed and Catherine became a young woman. Still, she never gave up hope that one day she would have a family and a home of her own. Then one day, everything changed. It was a cold winter morning when a group of men arrived at the Barkley home. They were led by a tall, handsome man with a kind face and gentle eyes. His name was William Munn, and he was a police officer from the nearby town of Leadville. He was looking for a wife, and he heard that the Barkleys' home needed someone to take care of the children so that the nuns could devote themselves to prayer. When William first saw Catherine, he knew that she was the woman he wanted to marry. She was beautiful, intelligent, and kind, and he could tell that she loved the children. With all her heart, William proposed to Catherine, and she accepted. Soon after, they were married, and together they decided to take as many children as they could with them to their new home. There were 4 boys and 3 girls who chose to go with them, ranging in age from 2 to 12 years old. It was a big undertaking, but William and Catherine were up for the challenge. They bought a large house in Leadville and set about making it a home for their new family. Life on the prairie was not easy, but William and Catherine were determined to make a life for themselves and the children. They worked hard to make the house comfortable, and they soon had a large garden growing outside. The children were happy in their new home. They had a mother and father who loved them and a house full of toys and games. Catherine was especially close to the children. She read them stories, played with them, and taught them how to be kind and helpful. She also taught them how to cook and clean so that they could help out around the house. But not everyone was happy with the arrangement. Some of the townspeople thought that William and Catherine had taken on too many children. They also worried that the children were a nuisance, and they complained to the local sheriff. The sheriff was a friend of William's, so he didn't do anything about it, but the townspeople were persistent, and eventually the sheriff's boss, Sheriff Pat Segretti, decided to investigate. One day, Sheriff Segretti came to the house and told William and Catherine that they had to get rid of some of the children. William and Catherine were horrified, but they knew that they had to do something to keep the children in their home. So they did the only thing they could think of. They put the children up for adoption. The children were devastated. They didn't want to be separated from the only family they'd ever known. But it was too late. Within weeks, all but 2 of the children had been adopted. Catherine and William were heartbroken, but they knew that they had done the right thing. Then one day, a stranger came to town. His name was Clayton Dahlgren, and he was a wealthy businessman from Chicago. He had heard about Catherine and William's situation, and he wanted to help. Mr. Dahlgren offered to buy back all the children and let them live with Catherine and William. Catherine and William were overjoyed. They thanked Mr. Dahlgren and promised to take good care of the children. But not everyone was happy with Mr. Dahlgren's decision. Some of the townspeople thought that he was a fool and that the children were a burden. They tried to warn him, but he wouldn't listen. Then one day, the townspeople's worst fears were realized. It was a dark and stormy night when a group of men broke into the house. They were led by the same sheriff who had forced Catherine and William to give up the children. The sheriff's face was twisted with rage as he searched the house for the children. Catherine and William were terrified, but they knew that they had to protect the children. William grabbed a gun and hid with the children in the basement. Catherine went upstairs to confront the sheriff. She knew that she couldn't fight him, so she tried to reason with him. She told him that he had no right to take the children and that they were innocent. The sheriff wasn't having it. He said that the children were a nuisance and that someone had to do something about them. Catherine tried to argue, but the sheriff was too strong for her. He grabbed her and threw her to the ground. Suddenly, William came up the stairs. He saw the sheriff on top of Catherine and he fired his gun. The shot hit the sheriff in the chest and he fell to the ground. The other men were terrified and they dropped their weapons. William stood over the sheriff with a gun in his hand. He was shaking with rage as he looked down at the man who had tried to hurt his wife. "Why did you come here?" William demanded. The sheriff looked up at William with fear in his eyes. I don't know," he stammered. I thought the children were a nuisance." William was furious. "They're not a nuisance," he roared. "They're human beings, and they deserve to be treated with respect." The sheriff's eyes were wide with fear. He knew that William was right, but he was too afraid to admit it. I'm sorry," he whispered. I didn't mean to hurt your wife." William lowered his gun slightly. "Get out," he said, "and don't ever come back." The sheriff didn't need to be told twice. He turned and ran, and the other men followed him out the door. As soon as they were gone, Catherine went to check on the children. They were all safe and sound, and she was grateful. William came down the stairs and hugged Catherine tightly. "You were brave tonight," he said. "I do know what I would have done if anything had happened to you or the children." Catherine hugged William back. "We were all scared, but we had to be brave," she said. "Those children need us, and we couldn't let them down." From that day on, the townspeople of Leadville never bothered Catherine, William, and the children again. They learned that it was never right to judge someone by their appearance, and that even the most ordinary people can be heroes. Catherine and William continued to raise the children, and they were happier than ever before. They knew that they had each other and the children to rely on, and that was all that mattered. Many years later, when the children were all grown up, they looked back on the night that their parents had protected them from the sheriff and the other men. They knew that they owed their lives to their courage and bravery. Catherine and William had shown them the true meaning of love, sacrifice, and courage, and they would never forget it. This is a true story about a woman named Catherine Barkley, who lived in the 1800s. She was an orphan who grew up in a church-run orphanage. When she was a teenager, a man named William Munn came to the orphanage looking for a wife. He had heard that the sisters at the Berkeley home needed someone to take care of the children so that they could devote themselves to prayer. William met Catherine and they quickly fell in love. He asked her to marry him and she said yes. Together, they decided to take as many of the children as they could with them to their new home. When they arrived at their new house in Leadville, the townspeople were not happy about the large number of children. They complained to the local sheriff, and he forced Catherine and William to put some of the children up for adoption. Only 2 children were left, and Catherine and William were heartbroken. Then one day, a wealthy businessman from Chicago named Clayton Dahlgren bought all the children back and allowed them to live with Catherine and William. The townspeople were furious, and they tried to warn Mr. Dahlgren, but he wouldn't listen. One night, a group of men led by the same sheriff, who had forced Catherine and William to give up the children, broke into their house to take the kids away. During the struggle, the sheriff was killed, and the rest of the men ran away. Catherine and William were able to keep the children safe and sound. From that day on, the townspeople never bothered them again. This story teaches us that no matter how difficult things may seem, we should never give up hope. Catherine and William faced many challenges, but they never lost faith in each other or in the goodness of humanity. In the end, they were rewarded with a happy ending and a lifetime of love and happiness with their children. So what's the lesson we learn from today's story? What do you think? Tell me in the comments below. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.